ahead and go straight into it, and I'll ask each of my panelists to introduce themselves and answer the question what they think, DEI for short, because us techies like acronyms for everything. DEI for short, what does it mean to you in the context of Kenya, and in particular in project management? So we'll start with Maureen. So Maureen, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maureen Bithio Chang, and I lead the team of project managers in Old Mutual, East Africa. What does the diversity, equity, and inclusion mean for me? I'm going to give an example, a situation. Old Mutual acquired UAP in 2015. And we're currently working on a project that we're calling Rebrand, where we're trying to move our name from UAP Old Mutual to Old Mutual, similar to the other countries that we are present in, 13 countries in Africa. And the idea is to make sure that we roll out the similar customer value propositions to our customers, to the communities we serve, to our employees, that we have something similar across the 13 countries. Now, from a project management mindset, what it means for me is making sure that as we try and make all of us the same, is how do we incorporate and make sure that we take care of all the diversities that we're trying to, the diverse groups that we're trying to work with. You're moving into countries like South Sudan, which are mostly maybe, let me say, Islamic, right? And you're trying to make sure that you don't put cultures that impede on their normal ways of work. You're also trying to make sure that as you move around, you're trying to accommodate the young, the youth, right? I mean, how do they feel about being called Old Mutual, you know? How does that feel for them? How do we try and make sure that that's taken care of? So as a project manager, making sure we've mapped out all our stakeholders, then going into to make sure that we are treating them fairly, and that's where the equity comes in. How are we treating them fairly? How are we also making sure that we accommodate their own customs, right? And then lastly, making sure that there is inclusion. That is making sure that we provide them with similar access, especially for our employees, for them to be able to practice, for them to be able to air their views about how they're feeling about this journey, and how do we carry them along.
Thanks, Maureen. Let's go to Fred, please.
Good evening. My name is Fred Omalwa. I'm a development practitioner and consultant, but at present, I'm a lecturer at a university, and I teach project planning and development. Now, diversity, I would like to approach it from a civil society point of view, slightly different from the corporate point of view. I was involved in a program that was addressing specific development issues in a certain locality in this country. And one of the requirements, which was strangely pioneered by the donor, was to observe diversity. So as the program manager, with my team, we were able to ensure, first of all, understand who are we, what the program was going to serve. So we looked at the geographical perspective and ensured that all areas of the geographical program that we are going to roll out are represented, because it was a requirement. It was a requirement to come up with a local committee, project committee or program committee, which was to work with us as a program to ensure that the program objectives for the area are implemented and done so successfully. And I think for us, we succeeded in doing that because we ensured that it was a water project, so we ensured that the different aspects, the different areas of the program area were represented. So for us, we were able to, in our view, capture the issue of diversity. Now, equity, the two are related, only that now it was about the outcomes, the objectives, who are to be the beneficiaries, and in the program area, we had different groups of people: women, children, girl child, the old people, people living with disabilities. So again, through the insistence of the donor, we ensured that the program was going to serve all types of groups in their different situations in terms of benefits. So for me, equity will relate to how a program or how an intervention ensures that the beneficiaries are not disadvantaged. They are all treated the same way. Inclusivity, again, related to the two, is looking out for the marginalized people or populations, you know, the old, the youth, people with disabilities, you know, being also brought on board in terms of project management so that they are not seen to be excluded, to fail to appreciate, to make their contributions to realize the program objectives. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. Let's go to Anne.
Thank you. My name is Anne Mutwiri. I'm currently doing IT strategy and program management. So I will give my answer based on the projects that I've undertaken over time, largely IT projects for different clientele, government, private sector, what have you. So for me, I look at diversity as the different people and the different experiences that these people bring to the table. So diversity for me is about being able to appreciate the different perspectives that different people bring to the table as far as the different projects that you're undertaking, especially when you look at projects that are looking to transform how people generally work. Then the issue of equity, I think sometimes as you undertake, let me call them transformational projects, sometimes people feel that they are unfairly biased, or they somehow when you maybe automate certain processes, they will feel like they'll be left out or their jobs at risk and certain things. So equity is about ensuring that these people are feeling that that there is fairness in the process, that the process or the journey that you're undertaking that does not impact them in any negative way. It is a very fair process, and in fact, it provides for them an opportunity to upskill and to learn new skills. Inclusiveness, again, is about the same people being able to feel like they're part of the process, that they're part of the journey that you're undertaking. Remember, in some of the projects that you undertake, especially the ones that take a really long time to implement, it's a continuous journey. So along the way, you need to then carry people with you. So that's the aspect of inclusiveness from that point of view. But again, the terms diversity, equity, and inclusiveness are very broad terms, but I've kind of just tried to bring it home in the context of what it is that we currently do. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Francis?
Thank you. My name is Francis Msioki Ishmael. I'm currently the head of IT at Red Dot Distribution. Red Dot has a presence in 12 countries, including Dubai. So I lead all IT operations, IT strategies, I lead the software team, the hardware team, and basically I manage different teams in different regions. So our developers, most of them are primarily based in India. We have other developers in different countries. So I'm going to speak about diversity, inclusivity, and equity, but I'm going to use Project Kenya, not my individual projects, because I want to use something that all of you can relate. So recently, the examples I'm going to give might be a little bit political or examples which are in the public domain. Recently, the president appointed a public service, PSs, And from the appointments, there was a complaint, and someone went to court and said, hey, look at this list. We have 12 people from the deputy president's tribe, and we have 12 people from your tribe. So we went to court, petitioned. Out of the 50, he said that this doesn't represent the face of Kenya. So basically, he was petitioning on diversity. You know, as a Kenyan community, we are more focused on tribes. In our context, we would prefer that if you are appointing anyone, be it head of parastatals, give a Kamba a position, give a Kikuyu, give a Pokot, let every community feel represented regardless of their competency. But most of the time we look at the competency, I think so. So I'll give an example of inclusivity. In the previous government, we had a president and a deputy president, who's currently the president. So the president felt that he wasn't included in the decisions of the country. And that's why you'd find that decisions are made. He says, I'm not being listened to, I'm not invited to meetings. Basically, he wasn't feeling part of the government. He wasn't feeling included into the government. So this is a very good example of inclusivity, and you can also see the problems it created for the country, and you can also see the Project Kenya was always broken between the two leaders. So again, if you create inclusivity in all levels, and even in your projects, and even in whatever you do, you'll find that even the team will be pulling together. Otherwise, the team will always be pulling apart if the people in the team do not feel included. People need to be listened to, people need to be heard, and in most cases, people need to feel valued in the teams they're part of. The third example I'll give is equity. So equity is more of giving people, there are two terms here, equity and equality. I'd like to, they're used interchangeably, but I'd like to differentiate them. Equality is basically giving equal opportunity to everyone, be it guys and ladies, give them equal opportunities. Equity on the other end is giving people opportunity based on their needs. So I'll give an example of the Hustler Fund. It was released the other day, and you know, all the public leaders were there. Let me apply for Hustler Fund. So normal mwananchi who sells eggs like me tried to apply, and you know, I got a limit of 500 bob. The Prime Minister, Musalia Mudavadi, tried to apply and got a limit of 2,500 shillings. So he was given 2,500 shillings. Let's say I was an egg farm, I was a real egg vendor, my pasua. So let's say I was selling eggs, yet I'm being given 500, and this person is being given 2,500. In real sense, I need the 2,500 more than him, because for him the 2,500 is what will he buy? Let's say 2 beers and the thing is over. So for this person, if you give him 2,500 and he's selling eggs, you have given him an opportunity based on his needs, and he'll be able to give you more value, and he'll be able to use the money in a better way. So that's my definitions for the 3 terms. Thank you.
Thanks, Francis. I actually wanted Francis to answer a question for me, now that he has the mic. So we were having a conversation, and there seems to be a question around the boy child being neglected. And I wanted to hear his perspective on why he thinks that's the case, especially, or not, especially in the project space, the project management space in Kenya. And then I want him to tell us why, yes or no, and then what he thinks can be done. Francis.
Okay, thank you. That was not part of the panel questions. I was talking to Anne before the question. I was like, I don't trust Irene. She's going to throw us off tangent. But probably to answer that question, we have had many cases of let's have inclusivity, and basically let's give women chances. It has been there. It has been a campaign for so long. And yesterday we met and we were discussing, so what shall we present to the people? And I brought up that, and I told them that I feel currently the boy child has been left behind. I'll give an example of Safaricom. So Bob Colimo said he wants to hire 50% of women, 50% of men. And in my opinion, of course it's my opinion, you're not allowed to speak, I have the mic. So in my opinion, I felt that was a little bit unfair because you look at the ratio in terms of men who are qualified. Let's take an example of IT. For those who read IT, and the women in the same class, you'll find the men are more probably. So in a class of 100 people, you find that ladies are 33, men are 60, 67, for example. So, but when you go for employment at Safaricom, the ratios were improved to a point of 51% were women and 49% were men. So in such a case, I always feel that you're empowering the girl child so much such that you find the 66 or 67 men who are fighting for the same positions are struggling, yet you're favoring the girl child. Not a bad thing. I have a daughter whom I love so much. But I always feel that at some point we'll have a crisis in the country. We'll have so many men who are jobless, and this will lead to more crime because men are naturally industrious. So, so you'll find there's more crime and there's more bad vices happening in the society because you didn't give men a chance. So in the context of projects, you find that yesterday we were speaking again, and you find that there are so many women who are in project positions as compared to men. In her case, she was giving us an example. So she has eight ladies, no man, 4. Formally. Oh. So in such a case, you find that ladies are very qualified, extremely organized, and they'll give good results in projects. But I think it's time we also give men an opportunity. They might not give you the papers and everything that you need, but at the end of the day, they'll bring a different opinion that will make the project move into a better direction. Thank you.
Thanks, Francis. Anne, now that you have the mic. I told you, I warned you, I told you. North, okay. So I can see the looks I'm getting. So I'll let Anne answer how we think we can resolve that, but I also want Anne to answer the question about being in the position that she sits in and balancing house.
That's a tough one, but okay, let me give a diversity of opinion and thoughts. Huh? So the view that I hold, first of all, I believe when Safaricom decided to probably take an initiative to hire more women versus men, it's to address like a historical issue or an historical issue that has been there, because historically you will see that when it comes to spaces around tech, engineering, the number of women in those spaces have been few. So you find organizations will take an initiative, I think around the lines of affirmative action to kind of equalize that, but normally you'll find that initiative is only there for a certain period of time. Once that equity has been achieved, then that case of hiring more men or more women, it just dies out. Then it becomes an issue of we're not looking for men or women, we're just looking for qualified people because we've achieved the balance that we wanted. So the issue of affirmative action, and it happens everywhere in government, when you're looking at marginalized communities in northern Kenya or when I think there's a time the Ministry of Education that said they're prioritizing children in public schools to go to the national schools. Remember then people used to fight for Alliance, Mango, and what have you. And there was an outcry that the kids who got into those schools are from private primaries. So the government said they'll prioritize public schools. But it's only for a period of time. Once that equality has been achieved, then that issue dies out. And I think that has been resolved for schools. So I will leave it at that. But the other issue around attaining some sort of gender equity. So in a previous place where I worked, not where I work now, let me just be clear about that. Yes, there was an issue of gender imbalance because, like I mentioned, when I joined the team, there were more women than men. I think there was one guy to a ratio of 10 ladies. So I did have some open positions, and yes, I did go out to market to look to try and hire gentlemen for the roles. But as I said, unfortunately, I was not able to get men who are good, would I say good enough to fit into these roles. So unfortunately, I hired women, which I was very sad about. But that also gave me a thought around, I think, mentorship, because I think mentorship flows both for women and men. I think men could benefit. Young men coming out of universities could benefit from mentorship, and so could women. But the thing which I have found in this space where I have been for a bit of time, generally women have gone out there to try and mentor fellow women, but I do not see men going out there to mentor fellow men. That is generally there. You will see we all sorts of women activities, lunches, seminars around mentorship and growth. But complementing effort, it's very difficult to find mentorship initiatives around men. So I think it's a call to action for men. Men who are complaining about the boy child, please take it among yourselves to put those initiatives in place to mentor young men in colleges, young men in universities, wherever they are. Go look for those men. Mentor them, grow them, challenge them to be better. Because at the end of the day, no one owes you anything. You have to work for it and you have to work for it and earn it. Women are working for it to earn it. I think even men need to work for it and earn it. And I think there's a place for male mentorship in that context. In anywhere that you look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. I'm curious, what Fred thinks about whether we are having, mentorship for men, and why it doesn't seem to be something that they do. Fred.
Well, let me go traditional again and go the civil society way. Traditionally, project management has been associated with societal issues where interventions are crafted, and then we have technical people coming in to assist. And we all know that any project has I think one of the speakers earlier alluded to it, the stages of project development. And initially, in project development, looking at those different stages, it was noted with time, at least in the early 2000s, that we had beautiful project development documents ready for implementation. And the challenge was that not all stakeholders, especially now the gender perspective, was properly and carefully examined. So from my personal experience, we had difficulties and challenges in getting projects implemented on time and effectively. But we changed that and now decided that at all the different project stages, the idea of women participation was upscaled, and that I think was also mainstreamed through the management approach to the project, and that all those stages, women were brought on board. And in the 5 years or so I was in that project, we realized different outcomes, different in terms of effectiveness, in terms of efficiency. Because I think as Anne says, there's a way in which women seem to operate differently and seems to be more effective when it comes to management. So I am a testimony, I think, to the fact that getting women in the right places at the right time works well for society. But now let me talk about what I'm doing now as a lecturer. I know, Francis, you'll not be happy about this, but at least where I am, I'm in a position to look at men and the boys, the young men, and we give them assignments, we get them into groups to work on certain issues and present. I can assure you that from my own experience with these young people, the ladies always come out organized, more in-depth, and their thought process compared to their counterparts is different, as I can tell you from the university. And I think I agree with Anne, and I would like also to rope in Francis, that maybe for those of us who have opportunity to interact with the boy child, let's not wait to complain at their performance. Let's, within our own spaces, whether as a father or an aunt or whoever, let's realize that it's not where they are going to school that will mentor them, but it starts as early as possible. Otherwise, I think at this rate, I still think that we will continue to complain. I think something needs to be done, and we are all in this one together. Let's try and help the boy child, because even at the higher levels, we could probably get experience elsewhere. The boys are not matching.
I'm watching your faces, and it's so entertaining to see the looks. Thanks, Fred. All right, so I'll finish with the last one. Not last but not least. So, Maureen leads a team, and she's in a certain level of management, and I think all of us are. And I just want to hear Maureen's perspective on, as women, can we do it all? How do you juggle cooking at 6 p.m., being home to cook at 6 p.m., and such like demands?
Lord, let me just start by saying the Lord helps us.
Amen.
Because it's such an uphill task for most of the women, and I think just to agree and to disagree with some of the panelists here, we are still not there from a woman's perspective, and even in the corporate world, if you look at management, you'll still see quite big gaps. At the bottom, you'll see lots of women coming up, and then somewhere along the way, they don't get it to the top. If you look at our boardrooms, it's largely male-dominated. Why is that? Even with all these issues we're raising here about feeling like the male boy child has been left behind because we've been focusing on women, you'll notice that in the boardrooms, we don't have as many women. Why? It's because of some of the challenges that Irene has actually raised. When it comes to us raising families, when you get children, I think it's expected that the woman has to take a back seat in her career so that she can raise her family and then come back. But by this time, the Francis I was working with has moved up. True or not true? Right? So there are very few role model women in the project management space for the young women to actually emulate and look up to and probably have some mentorship from. And I'm a mathematician. Numbers don't lie. To this date, if you look at in the project management space, you notice that 30% is women. And I'm happy to hear in spaces where you were doing fantastic. But in the whole world, like if you were to look at the numbers across board, women are still lagging behind. So you'll still see a push for us trying to drive women to get on this bus. And please don't get off the bus when things are getting tough. For us to succeed, my secret is support systems. Okay? So the first one would be a mentor or someone like Irene at the top who I rely on. Oh, Irene, tell me, when your boss was asking you to move to another country and you have a 2-year-old child, how did you handle it? How did you negotiate? How did you persuade them to give you a break until your baby grows, but not to sideline you at the same time? So it's nice to have role model at the top. And I think this is just to encourage the people in this room, especially the female species. It gets harder. I don't think there's ever going to be a straight line for us. I don't think so. Apart from just being mothers, there's extra responsibility of being the caregivers, of taking care of your family as well, taking care of your spouses, who we call our firstborns. So the burden will always be there. Please don't give up. Don't give up. Look up to a role model, someone you can lean on to push you through those trying times. And then please don't believe you can do everything. If you need a support system, someone to do the groceries for you as you finish your meeting pack in the evening, someone to pick your car and take it to the garage. Please rely on other people. We can't do it all.
Thanks, Maureen. I feel like I should Sorry, Anne, go ahead.
So just to add to what she was saying and to give context to my team of project managers, if you look at the structure within the organization, the team that let's say I found or met, though actually, if you do the pyramid of project management or any organizational structure, as you go to the top, the people become less. I think even the same thing for women. At the entry-level positions or the junior levels, there are very many, but as you go up that ladder, we become fewer and fewer and fewer until eventually there's probably one person left. So you find the team that I had, most of them were at the junior level. So I found myself in a place where I was trying to push them to kind of just upskill and go up the level, which anyway, it has its own challenges. And then now I was trying now, because we needed additional people, I was trying now to get, would I say when I was trying to recruit a gentleman, was almost at a junior level, so that they could also scale along with the team. That is where I had a bit of a challenge. This generation that needs to be mentored very, very thoroughly. Yeah.
All right. Okay, thanks, Anne. All right, so I just want to see if there's any question before I close out, and I can see hands. Oh, okay. Any questions? Oh, there you go.
Mine is not really a question, but just 2 points to add on that thing of balancing as a woman and work. Number one, somebody once told me, a woman who quits her job so that she can raise her children, and a woman who works extra harder and gets 2 house helps to take care of her children, those 2 women love their children. So, as a woman, whichever choice you take, first, do not feel guilty, because what matters is what you're doing. Second, when you quit your job, to go, like you were saying, you first take a back step a little bit, and then you come back later. For those who are having a husband in the house, remember your husband does not stop, right? By the time you're coming back, it's at the point that your kids have gone to high school and boarding or university, and then there's all this loneliness, and now you're starting to look for what's next. By that time, your husband or even your male counterparts are golfing, because they rose, yani they're just left with golfing. So what you're left with is looking for, again, I'm going to use Irene and you ladies who are there. So you're looking for Kina Irene, but they chose another path. The only reason why you quit, and I'm not saying that quitting is bad, I'm just saying that the only reason why you took back is because you were afraid of the societal perception. Guess what? It is exactly that, a perception. The truth lies in you chasing your dream. Second thing, the reason why we don't have as many women rising all the way to the boardroom is also because we work so hard, and we do, probably harder than the men. But the reason why we don't get to those positions and maintain them is because we also don't negotiate from a point of strength. We are strong, so when you get those positions, also negotiate from that point. Because we rise. And we've seen a lot of corporates or a lot of places where 2 people with equal qualifications, equal amount of work, a male and a female, get hired for a job where one is paid at 100,000, that's the lady, and a man starts at 150. And guess what? You'll be doing most of his work. So it's that point of negotiation. So the next time there's a promotion or something, those people will meet in the corridors. You're waiting to do your data to meet in the boardroom. Decision is made in the corridors. So it's just getting to know those loopholes so that we can also rise. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So I am running out of time, so I don't know if I can give, for the sake of equity. Yeah. Ron?
I'm curious that the panelists have avoided a very spicy topic.
Oh, really? Which one?
She knows. When speaking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and nobody should argue that this is not on our shows, there's this issue of sexuality. Doesn't this happen in your places of work? The whole business of pronouns. Yeah?
I'm tempted to get you to give your comment on the pronoun piece, and then we can close. You have you experienced the pronoun conversation?
Oh, yes.
And how did you handle it?
And shall I stand up?
True north.
Okay, there's a lot going on about that, especially in the US. And anyone of us here who works with multicultural teams, globally dispersed teams, you go into meetings and you have to declare your pronouns. Okay, so nobody can misgender you. Misgender is called misgendering. But besides that, a real life experience. So I worked somewhere, and so this came really close, because I have been reading about all this business. So I work in this place, and I notice there are 3 bathrooms. It was, the office is a bungalow somewhere in Nairobi, in the business of not disclosing details. So none of the bathrooms was marked for either male or female. I was curious, so I asked, how come anyone can just walk into any bathroom? Why don't you segregate? And I met head on with the diversity, equity, and inclusion affair. I was told, here we don't want people to feel uncomfortable. Again, in that business of, okay, I'm using the word business too much. In the whole interest of not making some people who may look like me with a goatee to go, but they identify as something else, as a female, for example. Yes? Or someone that looks female and they actually identify as, self-identify, that's what they call it, as male. So if we mark the bathrooms, people will be forced to go into a certain place where they don't feel they belong. So here we are free, dress the way you like, use whichever bathroom you like, and the other business is up to you. Now, that's why I'm very curious that we have skirted around that.
Well, okay, so because of time, I'm going to take that as a pointer, and then we're going to, we'll probably have another, online session about this. But I think, if nothing else, and I always tell this to the people I mentor and the people I work with, your value doesn't change whether you're male, female, etc. How you present yourself, your brand, what you can do, right? What you can do. And I always tell people, even the basics of, in your role, when you're asked for a report, do you at the very least confirm it doesn't have typos and or grammar? Those are the small things that make it look like you mentioned, the ladies tend to look at that. What are you doing about yourself and your brand that you're so good at that it doesn't matter if you show up in the room, it's about you as a person and not your gender, not your age. And I can tell you, some of you kind of know some of these stories. I've been through all of them. Age, there's one guy asked me, I think, we're talking on email all through, and then we're going to a meeting, and then he goes, "Is that you?" And I'm telling him yes. And he asked me, "No, limaliza shule juzi?" And I'm thinking, yes. So how do you respond to that? You know what I mean? How do you? So you go, and you kind of rub, kind of brush it off and walk away. But, it stays with you. And the question is, what are you doing as yourself on a day-to-day basis? Are you checking on your team? Are you, marking bathrooms? I'm not sure we are there as a culture, right? And as a country, but, are you booking sessions at lunchtime and this guy goes to pray? Are you, you know what I mean? Small things. What are you doing as a lead? And remember, as a lead, what you do, your team does. Do not underestimate the power, especially if you're in a team lead or in a leadership position. Do not underestimate the power of those small things. Small things like, booking 7 a.m. sessions, with zero regard of that your team has to travel to work or commute to work. Such things. Yeah, I'm not saying don't have 7 a.m. meetings. I'm saying don't infringe on people because you can. right? And I guess for me, in closing, I just want to thank the panel for a fantastic conversation. And I'm hoping we can do this again online and kind of extend it to all the other scenarios. But what are you doing as you, right, to not infringe on someone else? And two, what are you doing for yourself and your brand? And how well do you do your job that it is irrelevant how old you are, right? That's a takeaway for me, for you. You have to do better, and you have to be good at what you do. You have to be so good that it is immaterial. Like your name is a brand in itself. Yeah, and that's a challenge I'll give all of you. And I'm going to close it at that because Fred is giving me the look. But asanteni sana, it's been a fantastic time, and I'm sure we'll set up an online session. And thank you. Please clap
Thank you
for
so
my
much. Let's clap for our panelists.